Hi, boys and girls. Welcome back to another math lesson to learn a little bit more about graphs. Today, we're going to be introduced to a new type of graph, and that is a graph called a bar graph. So let's go right into our video. Our words to know.
Bar graph. Triceratops. Apatosaurus. Look at the bar graph.
So what you're looking at below is what we call a bar graph. It is called a bar graph because instead of using pictures like we learned yesterday to represent each vote, it's going to today instead be represented by bars.
What colors are the bars in the bar graph?
So taking a look at this bar graph in particular, you see three different types of colors. One will represent a different type of dinosaur. So we have the purple to represent Triceratops. We have the orange or yellow, depending how you look at it, for the T-Rex. And we have the pink for the Apatosaurus.
They are purple, orange, and pink. So which dinosaur is the favorite? Look for the tallest bar.
So looking at this bar, I want to know which dinosaur is the favorite. So I'm going to look for the bar that is the tallest, meaning is the biggest. So it's very easy to see that the pink is our tallest bar.
It's Apatosaurus. Which dinosaur is the least favorite?
Okay, so now we need to think opposite, right? Think about what that word least means.
Will the bar for the least favorite be short, tall, or in between?
Well, if the favorite dinosaur was the Apatosaurus and we looked for the tallest bar, you need to think just the opposite. For the least favorite dinosaur, we are going to look for the short bar.
It will be short. Which dinosaur is at the bottom of the shortest bar?
All right, so let's take a look at the digraph once again. And we want to find which one is the shortest. So looking just by size, the shortest one is going to be the purple one here. So it is the Triceratops, is the least favorite.
It's Triceratops. The least favorite is Triceratops. So how many children chose the T-Rex?
Okay, so now we need to explore a little bit further. Now, we know that the favorite is Apatosaurus, it's the tallest. We know that the least favorite is Triceratops, but now let's explore the orange or yellow to represent the T-Rex. So how you read a bar graph is by looking at a bunch of different things. The first thing you always want to look at, just like we did for the picture graphs, is the title. So we know that this bar graph is showing information about children who voted for their favorite dinosaur. At the bottom here, we have our three different types of dinosaurs that they voted for. So it was either Triceratops, T-Rex, or Apatosaurus. However, if you take a look on the left-hand side here, you'll see numbers. The bottom being 0, meaning no one voted. And then it goes all the way up to our top vote, which is 6. So it goes from 0 to 6. I want to know how many children voted for T-Rex as their favorite dinosaur. So I read this bar graph by looking only at the T-Rex and looking at each bar within the T-Rex category. I go all the way to the top of where the T-Rex ends. Now, I almost want you to drag your finger across the computer, follow my mouse, you could do it with me. I'm going to drag my mouse across to see what number lands on the top of the T-Rex, and it is the number 5. So that means that the T-Rex got 5 votes.
T-Rex got 5 votes. Find the number that is even with the top of the yellow bar. How many more children voted for T-Rex than Triceratops?
So now we're back to those key few words. How many more, how many fewer? And when we see those words in the beginning of a sentence, that means I'm going to be comparing two different categories. So in this case, I'm comparing the T-Rex and the Triceratops. We know that more children voted for T-Rex, but I want to know how many more, how many extra votes it got. So in order to do that, if you remember from our lesson yesterday, all I have to do is subtract the two categories from each other. So we already found out that the T-Rex got 5 votes. So that's the number I'm going to keep in my mind first. But now I want to compare it to the Triceratops. So I need to do the same. Look at the Triceratops column, go all the way to the top of the bar, and slide my finger across to see what number it is, and it lands on the number 3. So what I need to do is subtract those two numbers, 5 minus 3. And when I do 5 minus 3, I get an answer of 2. So 2 more children voted for T-Rex than the Triceratops.
There were 2 more children who voted for T-Rex.
All right, now we're going to do a little bit of practice problems together to make sure that we understand bar graphs. So let's go right into it. Let's review our vocabulary. We have data, which is the information that you collect for a graph. And today we were introduced to bar graph. And a bar graph is a graph that uses bars to show data or information. All right, so let's take a look at our first bar graph. We always look first at the title. The title is Books from the Library. So these are books that children have checked out. And our categories for this bar graph are storybooks, books about people, and books about dinosaurs. Each category is represented by a different color. Our storybooks are green, our people books are pink, and our dinosaur books are orange. And just like we had in our video before, at the bottom we see here, it could either be at the bottom or at the side, but here it's at the bottom, is our numbers to show how many votes each category got. So let's go into question number 1. Which kind of book was checked out by 5 people? All right, so what we need to do is look at the bar graph, see where that number 5 is, and see which category lines up to have gotten 5 votes. Well, it looks like dinosaurs is a little bit longer than 5 votes. However, the people looks like it lines up perfectly. So the kind of book that was checked out by 5 people is going to be the people books. Number 2, which kind of book did the most people check out? All right, so that's your keyword in this question. We're looking at for the one that got the most votes, so the tallest, the longest category. So looking here, we said just before that we know that the people were checked out, the people books rather, were checked out by 5 people. But let's take a look at some of the other categories. Let's look at the storybooks. Well, the storybooks looks like it is the longest one, and it goes all the way to here. And again, I want you to take your finger and almost like we're dragging it down to see exactly how many votes it got. So watch my pen. We're going to drag it down, and it is by the number 8. So it looks like storybooks got 8 votes, and I like to write them down on the side so I don't forget. And last is the dinosaurs. So we're going to go all the way up to the top of the bar, and it looks here like it got 6 votes. So now I need to compare those 3 numbers because I'm looking for the kind of book that got checked out the most. So I'm comparing 8, 5, and 6, and we know that 8 is the largest number, so the stories were the ones that got checked out the most. Question number 3, how many more people checked out books with stories than books about dinosaurs? There's that key, how many more, so that means that we're comparing. And in this case, for this problem, I'm comparing the stories to the dinosaur books. So what we need to do, if you remember from yesterday, is just subtract those 2. But when we subtract, we always need to subtract with a larger number first. So our storybooks got 8 votes, which we wrote down before. Our dinosaurs got 6 votes, which we wrote down before. So all I need to do is subtract those 2 numbers. So I'm going to do 8 minus 6. Take a minute to use your strategies to figure out what that is. 8 minus 6. you should get an answer of 2. And that is our answer, that 2 more people checked out books with stories than dinosaurs. Number 4, it says how many fewer people checked out books about people than books with stories. So again, we have those keywords in the beginning, but this time I want to know how many fewer, how many less. So I'm going to be comparing the people stories the people books and the storybooks. So let's take a look back up at our bar graph, and I want to look only at those 2 categories. So we know the people got 5 votes, the people books got 5 votes, and the storybooks got 8 votes. However, you need to always, always, always remember that when we are subtracting, we always start with the bigger number. I cannot do 5 minus 8. So I need to do the opposite and do 8 first, and then subtract 5. And that will tell me how many fewer people checked out the people books. So take a minute to use your strategies. 8 minus 5, 8. Take away 5. And you should get an answer of 3. So 3 fewer people checked out the people books. We're going to look at one more bar graph and answer a couple more questions together just to make sure we understand. But before we go to our questions, we should always make sure we understand what we're looking at. So let's look at the bar graph and look at the title. The title is Foods Dan Ate in a Day. So that is what our bar graph is all about. Now let's look at the categories down here at the bottom. So he ate fruits and vegetables. He also ate bread, and he also ate meat. The fruits and vegetables are shown in green. The bread is shown in purple, and the meat is shown in pink. And then again, at the side, you're going to see those numbers from 0 all the way to 7. And that will help us to figure out what the bars really represent. So let's look at question number 5. Dan made a graph of the food he ate one day. Which food did he eat the most of? Take a minute now to look at the bar graph and find which one shows the type of food he ate the most of. So most, biggest, tallest. And if you're looking at this bar graph, the tallest bar is our bar in green. So our answer is fruits and vegetables. Question number 6. How many times did Dan eat bread? All right, so that means I need to focus only on the purple column. I'm only looking at the bread. How many times did Dan eat bread? Looking here, we count the votes by going all the way to the top of the bar, and you can take your finger and drag it across the bar graph with me, and it lands on the top of 4. So he ate bread 4 times. Question number 7. Which food did Dan eat the least of? Least being our key word. Think least, you should be thinking the smallest. So looking at our bar graph, take a minute to look and find the category that he ate the least of, the smallest bar that you see. And when you do that, if you're looking, you should have found that the smallest bar is the pink bar, which is meat. So he ate meat the least. And our last question for today, how much more bread than meat did Dan eat? We have our keywords in the beginning, how much more, which means we are comparing, and I am comparing how much meat he ate and how much bread he ate. So we can compare them to figure out how much more by just subtracting and always starting with the bigger number. So let's look at bread first. Bread, we already figured out he ate 4 times. So I'm going to write that first because that's going to be my larger number. And I'm going to compare that to the meat. Now let's look at the meat column. Go all the way to the top of the bar. Drag your finger with your mouse with me. Drag it all the way, and it lands on the number 2. So all I need to do is take my bigger number 4 and subtract 2 and find the difference to figure out how much more. Use your strategies. This one should be easy. 4 minus 2. You should get an answer of 2. And he had 2 more pieces of bread than he did meat. And that is the end of our practice together. I just wanted to put out the reminder to check out the Brain Pop Junior that is posted with today's lessons. On today's lessons, when you click onto the link for the Brain Pop Junior, it actually groups together bar graphs and something called tally charts, but it's helpful to watch the entire video because we will be talking about tally charts tomorrow. So it kind of works out perfectly. So please be sure to check that out. As always, if you have any questions, just have your parents send me a message, and I will see you next time. Bye, boys and girls.